This episode is brought to you by the Wood Slicer Legendary Resaw Blade, available only at highlandwoodworking.com. Last time in part 3, we cut all our loose tenon stock, and we cut the panels to size and rapided the backs to fit into grooves, and we glued the case together. Finally, I can start working on the drawers. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on the drawer fronts, and I'm going to cut my drawer fronts to rough length. So with one straight edge on all the rough stock for my drawer fronts, I'm going to cut them to rough width. It's always a good idea to have nice flat drawer fronts. So I'm going to face joint one side of this before I plane it to thickness. But because this board overhangs my joiner by about 1/2 inch, I'm going to remove as much as I can at the joiner, and then we'll finish up that last little bit with a hand plane. By referencing off of this freshly face jointed portion, I'll bring this little strip down to the rest of the board using a hand plane. I've got my lumber from my back and sides cut to rough width and rough length. Now I need to do the same thing that I just did to the drawer fronts, and that's face joint one side before planing this to final thickness. For the bottom drawer, I need to glue 2 pieces together to get the required width that I need for the drawer front, sides, and back for that drawer. So the next thing I'm going to do is use my joiner to create a nice flat 90-degree edge on each mating surface. I have the glued up drawer front out of the clamps. Now I just need to cut it to its final width. And because I want to keep the glue line exactly in the center, I'm going to cut off the same amount of material off of each side. Next, I'll cut my drawer fronts to their final length. And before we can make the through dovetails in drawers, I need to cut the sides to length. For the drawers, I'm going to make proud through dovetails. And to make those dovetails, I'm going to use my dovetail jig. I need to make the grooves in all my drawer components next to receive the plywood bottom. I need to stop this groove about 1/4 inch in underneath the front of the drawer. At the back of each drawer side, I need to make a rabbet to receive the drawer back. I'm going to glue up the sides to all the drawer fronts now, and the plywood bottom and the back will go in after. For the bottoms of all the drawers, I'm just going to use some 1/4 inch plywood. For the plywood bottom, I decided that I'm not going to recess the plywood bottom into a groove into the drawer back. I'm just going to take the drawer backs and rest them on top of the plywood, and then make a mark and then cut these to width. That way, if I ever need to change out the plywood bottoms, I can. In the bottom of the drawer front, underneath where the plywood is going to go, I'm going to make a little hole for a dowel which will support the drawer slide. So after clamping all these backs into place, I went ahead and removed all the plywood bottoms, and I let the glue dry overnight. Now I need to turn my attention to the through tenons and soften all of these tails that poke through the front of the drawer. To protect the drawer face from getting scratched, I laid down some electrical tape as I softened the sides of the tails. I've got one of my drawers clamped up, and I'm going to make a hole into each pin, and then I'm going to follow that up with a square hole punch, and I'm going to fill the square hole with an ebony plug. I have a bar of ebony that's about 20 thousandths of an inch too big. So I'm going to shave off a few thousandths of an inch at the table saw, and I'm going to micro adjust my table saw fence by using this DIY micro adjuster that I made a few videos back. I need to pillow the ends of my ebony plugs, and to do that I'm going to use some 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to do it on top of this cushy material that allows the ebony plug to kind of push into the sandpaper. I started pilling at 220, then I went to 320, and I'm going to finish at 400. Because this plug is slightly oversized, I'm going to gently chamfer each side of the plug. So that's it for part 4, guys. So next time I should have all of the drawer guides finished, and I should have the top completed by then. And if you're not already subscribed, I hope you'll consider subscribing if you're enjoying this build series. And if you'd like to stay up to date with everything Garage Woodworks, you can like my Facebook page. Oh, and also if you go to my Garage Woodworks website, you can buy some really cool Garage Woodworks gear. Thanks for watching. Before I can do my through dovetails, I also need to cut all the sides to lengths. A few videos back to adjust my table saw fence over just by